good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jon Witt, and this is a Hatha yoga class. So if you've never taken my class before, welcome. Thanks for checking me out. All these classes will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. So if you're not a subscriber, you could subscribe. If you are a subscriber, if you could share it or like the information that I've been giving, it helps me build my channel, and I'd like to help more and more people in terms of with their yoga or with their movements. So I've been doing more movement-based practice over the years, and so if there's some things that you just can't do or you just want to watch, that's a great way of learning. But if you take it slow and you apply what you're actually capable of doing, you can slowly build up a better practice. It's just a matter of I see it often with people in terms of just starting out with like yoga, is that they try way too hard. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just over a course of time going to start to build up an awareness as far as how to use your body again. So if you're injured, everybody has some form of injuries. It's just a matter of working with them and just doing a little bit more and more rather than doing less. I'm encouraging more and more people to raise their standards and to do more with their bodies and with their practice, because you can most certainly continue the learning process. So you don't need a lot of equipment. I'm going to use a wall at some point in terms of referencing, but I'm going to start with my feet just about the width of my shoulders, and I'm just going to be moving my hips and moving my arms. So if I couldn't move my arms, I can move just the pelvis. And with something really basic is that I'm lifting my heels as I twist. So I'm turning my hips. And again, be really gentle with yourself. You don't have to, could be incredibly small, right? And then eventually it could be slightly bigger, right? But if I can include the arms will move. And if you notice in your walking, your arms aren't moving very well. Not that they move a whole lot, if they didn't move, you could encourage the arms moving more and more. And as your arms loosen up, your shoulders loosen up, your torso becomes more pliable. Like if my upper body can move better, my arms will move better in space. So just a few more. It's kind of cold here, so I'm going to move a little bit more today in terms of this class. So when I'm here, I'm moving my pelvis to encourage the torso to move, and I could include my head. If you want to keep your head just in the middle, you can certainly do that. So just coming back to just a neutral stance, and I'm going to have the arms forward just as a counterbalance. I'm going to bend my knees and then straighten my legs. So just bending my legs, straightening my legs. If you don't need your arms for balance, you could just have your arms beside you. So it's good to have the arms forward, especially if you don't have a lot of strength in your arms or your shoulders. So it's just a matter of, you need more relaxation, have your arms beside you. You need more strength, you'd have your arms out in front of you. So just basic conditioning of the legs. But say you lack strength, or you lack mobility in the body, just some squats are really great. So I'm just coming back up into the middle and then back up into the middle. I'm going to be moving my foot in space. So the front of my foot's down and my heel is lifting. And the more basic way of doing this is just elevating the heel and lowering the heel. So if you had something going on in your knee or your hip where you couldn't move your leg in a circular motion, just elevate the heel and lower the heel. But as I'm moving my leg around, it'll help with moving the tissues around the ankle, around the knee, and around the ball and socket of the pelvis. So I'm going to rotate back into the center. And what's interesting too is you could just hold it statically, right? That's a great thing to use. But in moving, it's more progressive, right? It'll help mobilize the tissues. So then I'm coming back over into the opposite side. So I'm on the left side. Doesn't matter which side you're on, just doing the opposite side. But you'll see which leg might be more difficult to move. And And it can vary in different places because it is multiple places that you're moving. And that's the thing with walking, is that you might see like, oh, my hip, my leg doesn't swing as well on one side, but it swings better on the other. And, maybe the good side is starting to kind of wear out because it is the good side. So getting both sides to move a little bit better is what I'm encouraging people. So I'm just coming back in the center. I'm going to have my right foot coming up off the floor, and I'm just elevating my leg up. Now you could use a wall, right? I'm lifting the leg up in space. So just finding the angle in terms of where you're weak or where you're stiff is, in my opinion, the best kind of angle to start with. And then as I'm taking it out to the side and I'm lifting it, I'm trying to get my hips to be stronger so that I can pick my legs up more freely, again, when I'm moving or walking. So I'm going to bring the right foot down. I'm taking the left leg up. And then as I take the left leg up, you get something going on in your hip impingement. This is common, right? You'd want to find the angle that's easiest. And then as it gets better, hopefully it'll get better for you. Then you can take it out into a different angles. And then possibly, which could be really good, is moving the leg through space. But you gotta be really honest with what's good with, moving your body as opposed to just moving it. So I'm gonna take it back into the middle and then bringing the left leg down. So I'm just gonna turn, but I'm gonna be moving my leg in space, just swinging the leg. So just start out really small. You could hold a wall or a chair. So I'm just moving my right leg forward and back, right? It doesn't have to be this fast, right? You can see how my arms are countering how my leg is moving, just as if I was kicking a ball or if I was doing some sort of martial arts kick, right? The arms will counter the balance. So I'm just like a pendulum, I'm moving my leg. And it's really for the whole body. You move your legs, you move your arms. It's global. So I'm going to just switch over so you can see this. So I'm just swinging the left leg in space. And again, maybe one hip is really stiff. Maybe you're not swinging it as much as I am, right? And then back to center. So have the legs a little bit further apart than the shoulders and turn the feet out and bend the knees and push your thighs apart. Now you don't have to have your arms out, but to get the arms to be stronger and to get a rotation in the shoulders, my palms are facing up, my thumbs are turning back. And you could stay here statically. You could also come up. So that's the thing with, if you didn't have a lot of strength or flexibility, you could start with not holding the pose so long. You could go down for about 5-10 seconds and then bringing yourself up, which is a great way of doing it. If you did have the strength and you did have the flexibility, it's nice to hold for an extended period of time. You could start with 30 seconds, could be 60 seconds. Bring myself up. One more time, I'm going to bend the knees, I'm going to push the legs apart. So as I'm pushing my legs apart, I'm trying to get my tailbone to move down, and then that'll help with opening up more of the interior of the hip and the pelvis. And then bringing myself back up to a standing position. So I'm coming up, and then my feet are just neutral, just straight forward. And I'm going to come up on the toes, I'm going to lift the heels. And then slowly lowering the heels, better on an elevated surface, but it's good here too. So if someone was really tight in their feet, it is almost as if they are on a step. That's how much of a stretch it can be for some people. So just look over the right shoulder, and then as you look over the right shoulder, keep the balance. Look center, and then look over the left shoulder. And then bringing the head to center and then lowering the heels. Take the arms into a cactus position and open and close the hands. So as your arms are here, right, it's external rotation. So those of you that have stuff in your shoulders, you can't move your arms, probably going to be the easiest thing to do. But then eventually you can move the arms forward where it's an internal rotation. and then back into an external rotation. But again, if it's irritating in the shoulder, you gotta discern and see what's actually best for yourself. Taking the arms back to cactus. One more time, bringing them forward and down. Trying to bring my tailbone down. For me, because I'm an anterior tilt person, my pelvis. Taking the arms back to cactus and then taking the arms all the way up. And I'm going to try to get the shoulders up towards the ears. For just a couple seconds, I'm really lifting up through the arms. And then I'm going to take the arms back to cactus. Like I said, when someone's really tight, it's good to just hold for a few seconds. And of course, as you get more developed, longer holds are good. You can take the arms up, shoulders up towards the ears. Sometimes it's kind of frowned upon to not really hold something really long, but it's actually a very good way. So they're just different approaches. You can hook the thumbs at the very top, and I'm going to bend my knees. And if I'm not tucking my tailbone down, I'm probably using my lower back more than I should in a position like this. It's, a spin off from a classical Utkatasana. So my tailbone's down and my pubic bone's up. I'm trying to move my ribs in and then bringing myself back up and taking the arms down. So I'm going to be moving my arms, my shoulders in space. So my shoulders are just rotating back. Just really simple, right? And then as you're moving your shoulders, you can make it into a bigger motion. Right, moving your arms, and then I'm going to move it forward. Right, big motion if I can. But like I said, as some positions will work better, so maybe you're not using this. But if I can, I'm going to rotate one shoulder back and one shoulder forward. So moving, and it could be just a shoulder shrug, just up and down, right? But now it's right shoulder forward and left shoulder back. Right. Just to see this, I'm going to take my right arm up and forward. And maybe that's as high as I can go if you have a shoulder tear, right? I'm taking the arm up and I'm looking to the hand and I'm turning my body, right? Bringing it forward, bringing it up, bringing it back. So I'm turning my body as my arm goes back in space. Like I said, with walking, when your arm moves back in space, your body's rotating back slightly. So I'm going to do it on the left side. So the left arm's going to come forward, and the left arm is moving back, right? Forward and back, forward again, and turning your chest. You could look to the hand, really good practice for the neck and the eyes, and then bringing it forward. So I'm going to come to the top of my mat. I'm going to do some lunging. Use a wall, of course, if you need support, but in this transition, it's really easier on your back. Common in yoga is a lot of forward bending. You have osteoporosis or osteopenia, right? You don't want to be forward bending in that case. Over time, as your spine gets stronger, you can certainly do those things, right? Hopefully. You can bend the knees. You can step the left foot back, and with the left foot back, I'm in this lunge, and I want to be wide enough so that I'm creating more space and width. So just come up to straight legs and get the tailbone to move down. So with the tailbone moving down, you can take the hips forward and down. I'm going to take the arms forward, and I'm going to move my shoulders back in space to retract them, and my arms are up. So I'm retracting and in depression, but I can lift the shoulders up into elevation, which is really good for the shoulders. And then I'm going to bring the arms down, right? Maybe possibly shake it out. Maybe straighten the leg out. Then taking the arms forward again, take them up overhead, bend the knee, and explore, right? If you are new, right, this is a good position. It doesn't have to be 90, but as you develop, it can certainly be a greater range of motion, right, where you're getting more and more exposure in bigger positions. So have the right leg straight, and one more time I'm going to sit low, and your arms could be any way, especially if you're struggling with your balance. But think tailbone's moving down, upper body's moving more up in space, You can get smaller through the belly and the ribs, and then, maybe you're in a lower position. And then bringing the arms down and then stepping the left foot forward. Take the arms up overhead, hook the thumbs, come up on the toes. Then lower the heels, and you can exhale, you can lower the arms. And then I'm stepping the left foot back. And with the left foot back, I may want to widen the stance. Your front foot can be crooked at first. It's not against the rules to have it crooked. But then as your balance gets better, try to have the foot straight. So I'm bending my left knee, taking my arms up, my tailbone's moving down. Again, if you don't understand the shoulders can move back and then up overhead. There's other ways you could do this in terms of manipulating the shoulders. This is just the most efficient way in developing the position, right? Retraction of the shoulders and depression of the shoulders. I'm gonna have my left leg straight. I may take the arms down if I need it, right? It's okay to move. It's okay to relax the arms. Take the arms up and then bending the left knee. So when you're using like maximum effort, it's really good in the sense that very good for tension and stress, right? But there's the other side of just kind of relaxing more. So I'm gonna bend my left knee, maybe sitting lower into this position, tailbone's moving down, and then bringing yourself back up, bringing your arms down, and stepping your right foot forward. So I'm just going to have my hands on my hips and moving my pelvis. So what I'm thinking is what stops people from getting lower is a lot of tension in the pelvis. Obviously, it could be hamstrings and quads. That's the obvious. But it could be just this, just loosening up the hips will help you in being in more bigger positions. And not that I'm so like, you have to be, getting into like these big grandiose positions, but the longer the stances are, the bigger the shapes are, the more exposure and space you'll get. So I'm just elevating one side of my hip and then the other. So maybe you can get it to move like this, which again will really help with your walking. Then I'm going to come back into the middle and just circle the pelvis in a circular motion. And again, I do this with people sometimes, and it can be irritating. So maybe a tucking of the tailbone and a sticking out the butt is better. And you got to see as far as your own personal experience. So just bring the tailbone down, then stick it out again, and then bring it down again. And then I'm going to come into a balancing position and kind of mixing all these worlds together is taking the left foot up off the floor. So did earlier is just static holds, right? To help with the strengthening of your hips. But this time I'm going to be moving my left leg in space internally, and this is external. So internal and external. And say you were doing like a circle, just start out really slow. Because when I'm teaching people and I can actually see them, they'll work way harder than they actually need to. So just relax, move the leg through space. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then over time, right, it will move more freely for yourself. And you can bring the left leg down and then taking the right leg up and moving it through. And again, one side may move better than the other. Nothing to be, worried about. As you practice, right, it gets better. It's just a matter of practicing. So as I'm moving it through, right, I may spend more time on one side. I may repeat the side I'm not going to, but depending on how I feel, I'll spend more time on one side. So I'm going to come down on my hands and knees, work some hands, your shoulders. So once you come down to all fours, have the hands just underneath the shoulders and turn the hands out and move the weight forward into the front of the hands and move the weight laterally. So just in all four positions, very good for bone density and very good for strengthening yourself in terms of standing. So obviously, if you've ever witnessed or observed any child in developing, right, they spend months and months and months, most kids will spend months, crawling, right? It's the same thing. As you get older, you can spend more and more time on your hands and you'll be able to, function better. So I'm going to turn just the back of my right hand on the floor. So this is the hard part of my hand, but I'm moving back in space to expose the wrist, right? Then the right hand is forward or out, and then the back of my left hand's in the floor. Now you're creating some tension in the fingers to help with stretching out the form and the wrist. The more forward I am, the easier it is. The further back in this variation, the more stress is in the form, right? So it's just good exposure into the wrist. So just turn the hands forward or slightly out and push with the hands and protract the shoulders. So get the shoulders to move apart. And then retract the shoulders so your chest is actually moving down towards your hands. And then protract. So get the shoulders to move apart from one another. And that's what you want to be in when you're in plank or side plank, or, really understanding how to transition on your hands, right? So I'm making it longer to come up into plank pose if I can. So grip the floor, use your fingertips, move the weight around if you need to, right? If you're always in the same position, right, you might be in one hand more than the other. Super common. So get the weight to move around, and then you can actually see if you need to adjust yourself. So take it up into a down dog and pull the hips back in space. You have good flexibility. Of course, do it with straight legs, but you may want to do it with bent knees from time to time just so that you're exposing your back differently. The moment I bend my knees, the more I get more and more into my upper back, right? If my legs are straight, for me, it's more lower body. I don't feel as much of a stretch through my upper body. So they're both good to use. I'm going to come forward and through into an up dog. So when I come forward and I come through, I'm lifting, I'm contracting my glutes, right? I'm using the front of my body to support the load or the pressure in the lower body, the lower back. So go back up into a down dog. And then in that down dog, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm coming forward and coming through. And I like this variation for just about anyone because it doesn't require a lot of strength. And you could do it, many times if you needed that type of repetition. So take it back up into a down dog and then come back down on the knees. So with my knees like this, my toes are tucked, and I'm going to sit back onto my feet a little bit. And I say this anytime I teach this pose. You want the right amount of pressure where it's uncomfortable. It will be uncomfortable. Even if I can sit, all the way up, on some level it's uncomfortable, right? But it's to help restore the tissues. I'm going to come back where my feet are untucked and then sitting back. There's ways to adapt this. Some people are very supinated in the foot. So this can be really complicated. So you could always have like a towel that you could put underneath the tops of the feet so the bones aren't getting pushed too much, right? But as the supination becomes better, and it can, then maybe you don't need as much. But both these positions are really great. I'm going to tuck the toes. I'm going to sit back on the heels. Remember when I was doing it in a standing position and the foot was flat and I was moving the heel? This is a very similar position, but as this gets better, then you can come up and down off the floor in many different ways, which is nice. Then you have more ability in how you move. So I'm going to come back where the feet are untucked, sitting back onto the feet. And your body will tell you when to move. So if you just set a timer and just use these two positions, your body will tell you when to move. Really good on grass. And then as it gets better, right, I'm on a hardwood floor. Could very well be a hardwood floor. So I'm coming back up into plank. So pushing through the hands, protracting through the shoulders, and then pulling back up into a down dog. So I'm going back up into a down dog. I'm going to come forward and come through into an up dog. So lift the chin, lift the chest. Maybe you want to turn your head, like I'm looking over my right shoulder. I'm looking over my left. I'm static when I need to be static, and I'm moving when I need to move, right? And that's something that I I really promote when I'm teaching people in the same room. So go back up into a down dog. Like, it's not about just being, still has its place. Stillness definitely has its place, but it's okay to move. So walk your feet in slightly closer towards your hands. Walk your hands back towards your feet. And if you can be in a forward bend, great. If you could not, right, you're back. For whatever reason, you shouldn't be forward. You could be up on your elbows and in a flat back position. And it's probably the most common yoga injury is from forward bending. And it's not that to say you shouldn't forward bend, but let's say there comes a time that your lower back is really irritating you. Maybe you take a break from forward bending. Maybe you're more in this position, or maybe you're standing back up. But if I could be forward, right, I'm going to take my hands purposely off the floor. So I'm rounding through my upper back. And this is, if you took a picture of this and you flipped it, it's what you would look like if you were doing plow pose. So this is a very good prep for doing plow. Not that I'm going to do plow today, but you can roll yourself up, back up to standing, and if you're interested in that position, but you're a little reluctant to do it or scared to do it, that's okay, but I would keep it to shorter holds, just 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, You come out, I'm going to do a side bend. So if I couldn't forward bend, I would side bend. I would spend more time side bending, some twisting, right? But I don't think most people are rounding their back enough, and that's partially why it gets so weak and it gets so calcified. You can bring yourself up, you can lean to the right, and there's different conditions, right? Not just from lack of use. So it's not that simple that you're not just doing these positions enough. But some people, they'll go, almost their whole life without doing that. And if you're not moving the joints, they'll certainly get weaker and they do become brittle, right? And then bringing yourself up. So I'm just going to be twisting my body to the right. I'm going to have my chin to my chest, just twisting, but not turning the head. All right. I'm not moving as much as I could, but I'm actually twisting more because I'm a little bit more accurate in getting my body to turn in this direction. Right? And then turning to the center. You could use your hand and your chin and twisting to the left. The right hip is back. Again, you could just kind of force yourself over, but I'm more interested in myself and in others and getting stronger to apply the twist. So it's more, you can use it more. So I'm just back into the middle. So just turn the head to the left, and as the head's to the left, then I'm stretching out the neck. Right? A static hold is good. I'm going to lift the head, and then I'm going to take the head over to the right side. And this is good. This is like the basic, just tilting the head, side bending, right? But it's just the neck that you're applying it. I'm going to take it up, and then I'm going to move it to the left. And as you build up in awareness, you can use a little bit of strength. Not rigid, right? I'm just using a little bit of strength to take the leg over. And I'm not really concerned of how far I am. There's days when I can go further than I am today. I'm not really concerned with that. I just want my neck to feel good and that it moves well. I'm taking the head up, and then I'm moving it over to the right. As this gets easier and you understand it more, it can be a movement. Right? You can move the head side to side. It's just something I wouldn't start with, especially if you don't have a lot of body awareness. Right? You don't want to just frantically move. You want to move with great care and detail. And then taking the head up. I'm going to bring the chin into the chest. So down. Actually trying to bring the chin down into the chest. And then bringing the head up. Bringing it up. Chin up. Looking up. And then just bringing it back to center. So as we did earlier, remember when we were moving one arm forward and one arm back? Just something like that. Super basic. but then you can move the right arm forward and the left arm back. But we're going to move the arms in a bigger circular motion. So in yoga, Warrior 1 to Warrior 2 is a popular transition. So when you take your arms overhead, you're going to bring your left arm forward and your right arm back in space. It's going to be a full range of motion. So now when my left arm is back, my body's turning to the left, then I'm turning center, and then my right arm is back, and my left arm is forward, right? So my left arm's moving forward, my right arm is back, and turning, twisting to the left as my arm come up. So again, think of always the back arm as where your chest is turning to, right? And then we're going to do it the opposite way. So my right arm is forward and my left arm is back, right? So left arm back, body's turning to the left, right arm is forward. And might be a little tricky and you might get frustrated with it. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, but your arms should feel a lot better, easier from that. But I'm going to go back into a bit of a lunge, but I'm going to make it a slightly shorter. And this is to really help support a squat, a single leg squat or a double leg squat, like a deeper range. But if you got something going on your knees, think long. Long is probably going to be better initially. Not super long, but long enough, and that you're just keeping the 90-degree angle. But if I can, I'm going to encourage a deeper lunge where I'm sitting a little bit lower, right? So my right leg is forward, my left leg is back. So I'm not really that long in my stance, and this is to load up the front leg. So the front leg's going to get stronger from this, and it'll help build up the range around the knee. But again, you got to tread lightly at first. So take the arms overhead if you can. And then bending the right knee, bending, and my knee is going past the ankle, right? Which is a big myth that it's, bad for the knee. It's not bad for the knee at all. Reason it hurts is because you don't do it, right? We don't do it enough. Look at any small child that, they're squatting all the time. It's something that you could slowly build up again. So take the arms up, bringing yourself forward, bringing yourself down, right? But maybe not as low as me, and it's still good. And then over time, right, you can be as low as I am or doing more. Then bringing it up. And then one last time, I'm bending the knee. Arms out to the side is probably the easiest way to balance. So if it's a balance, if you're struggling with your balance, have your arms out to the side. Bringing yourself up. I'm going to step the left foot forward, but just notice when I step my right foot back, my knees past my toes. Right? You really do need this for stairs. Your knee is going to have to go past your toes in just normal function movements, right? Stepping the right foot back. Again, have your arms however you need to. Bending your left knee, right? Sitting low. Maybe my arms are up overhead. Bringing myself up, left leg is straight, coming down. And I've said this in other classes. Say your legs are really tired from this class, it's probably the best thing for you. Getting your legs to work again, so important. Taking the arms up, like at least once or twice a week. You should do something that is taxing your legs, getting them tired. Getting them tired is so good on so many different levels. And then bringing them back up and then stepping forward. But let's say the next day your knees hurt, then you pushed it too much, So you got to find the right kind of, intensity or, whatever capacity your body's at. But I'm just going to stretch out the quadriceps. So, if it was just tension in the legs, you probably need some more stretching of the lower body, and I'll do that later in the class. But I'm going to bend my left knee and just grabbing my left foot. So then as I'm holding the foot, it could be up on a chair, right? But let's just say it's just tense, it's just tight, right? Just pull a little bit on the shin or the foot to a degree where you feel just a greater stretch in the leg. That's all you're going for. So you pull and it's negatively pulling on the knee. The tissues just aren't ready to move like that. And the knee is really just the default. Then the knee really starts to hurt, right? So bringing the left foot down and then taking the right leg up. So as you take the right leg up, again, you could hold on the foot or the shin. When I get down on the ground, like I did earlier, that's actually more progressive because there's weight involved. But you really do need that extra weight, especially if it's really tight. You're going to need extra weight to loosen up the tissues again. And it will hurt, There's no denying it. It's going to be uncomfortable. But like I said, if you just keep being like, oh, that hurts, I don't want to do it, your abilities will become less and less, and it's just going to be harder for you to do, the most basic things. So, in my opinion, it's really good to stress your body a little bit more. But I'm going to just do a basic, something else that would help you in terms of squatting, and it's just using the wall. I'm going to have my hands at the wall, and then I want to bend the front leg where I can touch the wall, right? But then what I'm going to do is move the foot away from the wall and then moving it to the wall. So if I can touch the wall, what I'm going to do is try to lift and lower the toes. So I'm lifting. My toes aren't really moving because I'm so deep in the lunge. So just go to a level where it's easy and just lift the toes and lower the toes. Just where it's easy. Super easy, right? Or it's more manageable, I should say. So just lift and lower about 10 times. And then bring the knee to the wall, but then bring the foot back. And then bringing the knee. And you'll notice that the range will increase just from using your toes more. And it's not so much like, say you're almost all the way back where you can touch the wall. That's still pretty good. Like, you don't have to get so extreme about it to bend the knee, but this will really help with what I did earlier with the lunging. And then I'm going to set the right foot back and the left foot's going to come forward. And then I'm bending my left knee so that it's touching the wall, but then I can still lift and lower the toes, right? Which is just a good practice in itself, right? Getting your toes to move more. Oh, so beneficial in helping you with your balance. So it's just, you have to really work at it. But then straighten the leg and then move the foot back a bit more from the wall and then bending the knee. And maybe you can see that you can get your knee more forward. Again, not that this is so critical, right? But it's a way to really stretch out the leg and then bringing yourself back up. So just one more time, we're going to go back into the quad stretch. Of course, use the wall. So I could hold the wall, bending my knee, stretching my leg out. There's really great ways. I'm not going to do it today, but you could put your leg up against the sofa. Maybe we'll actually do that. So you're going to fold up your mat and you're going to bring yourself up to the wall. If you've never done this before, put yourself in front of a sofa. It's much easier and it's softer. And you want it to be somewhat easy at first. You don't want it just to be, super, super demanding. But when I come down, I'm going to be on my knees. I'm on my knees, but I'm tucking my left leg back. I'm really on the top. If you're on the bottom half of your knee, like if you're on the patella tendon, that's below the knee, that's the top half of the tibia, that's what hurts. So you really want to be more on your femur if you can. So see how low my hips are, the lower I can be on my thigh bone, right? But I'm going to bring my right foot forward, and I'm somewhat low here, right? I'm low with my hands, which is good. It's a good position. But what I'm trying to do is bring my tailbone underneath me. This can be really, really hard, you know. I'm not on extra padding, but you should be. You know, be on carpeting, you know, as it warms up. You know, you could bring your phone with you and do it in the park, you know, on grass. Right? But I'm moving my weight around to adjust my hips, and this will help with, like I said, more global space in the body, more space throughout the body. It's much more difficult to sit upright. So as this gets easy or easier, we're going to be coming up into an upright position, but I'm going to just keep it low today. So bring the right foot back. So the right foot, and my knee was all the way up to the wall. Yours does not have to be that far back, right? So I'm not going to come that far forward. So my left foot is forward and my right leg is back. But again, I'm not on. So this part of the knee, right, the tuberosity, right, it's like that's where the patella sits. So really common I see with people is that when they put their knee down, it's like it hurts, right? And it always hurts. But if you get more on the top half of the leg, you got to get more flexible in your hips to do that. But then you can get more off of the knee. I'm on my thigh, I'm really not on my knee at all. So I'm just sitting here, moving the weight around. As it gets easier, you move your knee close to the wall or whatever contact point you have. So take 3 deep breaths, breathe in, breathe out. And when you know, like, say this is something that you need, you know, everything that I did in class will help with this, but, you know, you might need to just get right to it. Just spend more focused time on what you actually need, you know, because you might not have that kind of time in the day. So when I don't have a lot of time, I'm practicing what I really ultimately need the most on that day. And that's, you know, there's days when I have more time and, you know, then I'm doing more, I guess I have more liberty to practice more things, right? But I'm going to have so to come out of this, you bring your left knee down, you can walk forward, but have your legs forward. As your legs are forward, have your hands underneath your shoulders and just push through the hands, retract the shoulders. So getting them back in space. Then push through the feet and lift the hips. Getting the hips to lift. I'm just moving the weight around again to adjust the shoulders, but I'm going to try to keep my hips up and move it forward more in space. So getting my shoulders to adjust themselves, the front of the shoulders, and then bringing my hips down. And just relax your shoulders for a moment, bend your elbows, but then push through your hands, retract the shoulders, get them to move back, and push through the feet, and lift yourself up. Again, you know, not again, but with bone density, you have to be physical. You gotta find ways to get physical, you know, if you want to stay active. So at some point, your doctor will probably say, "Hey, you need more weight-bearing stuff." You know, body weight is good, but you might actually need to like lift some weights, like some, you know. And say I don't want to lift weights. You know, go to your grocery store, the closest one, get some groceries, and just walk home with them. Try to even the weight out in the hands. Super, super basic. One more time, pull the shoulders back. I just see this so often with people, you know, that are aging, is that they get really brittle. So and there's so many different ways you can get the bones to be stronger, but you know, it's a practice. So then pulling the shoulders back, keeping the hips up, and then bringing the hips down. So I'm going to do a couple more things for your hips, just because we did some more hip-related stuff, and maybe you can see a difference in them. So my legs are a little bit wider than my shoulders, and I'm just taking my knees to the right, maybe not all the way, right? Just partial range of motion. And say this is not good, just stay open. Just have an open stance and push the knees apart, because this could be the case is that you might really not be able to do the motion. You know, your mind might be ready, but your body might not. So this open position, you can push out for about 5 seconds and then relax. But if I can, I'm going to be moving my left knee forward and down And you'll probably be off to the side a little bit, right? And take the left knee up, slow to carry the legs to the left side, right? Leg could be at 45 or 90, both are good. And I'm lifting the knees, carrying the knees over to the right side, and then lifting the legs, carrying the legs to the left side. And this could, there might be sounds to it, right? But as long as you're not hurting and it's not too much, right? It can be very good for your knees, very good for your hips, very good for your back. So I'm taking the legs up one more time. And then as I carry the legs over the left, I'm going to if I bring weight into my right hand, it's manageable to bring the left leg forward into like a cross-legged position. But maybe you can't bring it all the way forward, but you could be here, right? And then bringing it back. But I'm going to bring it forward a couple more times. The more I lean to my right, the easier it is. But I'm trying to encourage my leg to move through space, which will help with, again, many movements. So the left leg is back. Then I'm taking the knees up. I could do it without my hands. And then my knee is down. So I'm sitting upright. But again, just this basic position could be the best thing for you. Maybe you don't need to move your leg, but I'm going to take my right leg forward and then bringing it back. I'll bring it forward, taking it back. Right? Try to sit upright when it's back. Move it forward, move it back. Bring the hands beside you and push the knees apart. So drive your legs apart, get more space in between your legs. Right? Really pushing them out, then let it relax. One more time, push out, and you can let it relax. I'm just gonna sit cross-legged. Just take a few deep breaths, breathe in, breathe out. Again, it's a process, so maybe, it's a struggle, but it's a good struggle, right? Like anything that's worth learning, it's gonna be difficult. Right? It's not going to be easy, but as you are patient and you care about yourself, you're going to make good decisions, take stuff out. But again, having some sort of progressive practice, I think, is so good for you mentally and physically. So it should be a little bit out of your capacity, so that you're always learning. All right, I hope that class was good for you. I enjoyed it. You could always leave me a comment, whether it's positive or negative. I'm okay with that. But just let me know how the classes are going. You could send me a video in terms of anything that you were struggling with, and I could help you with that. But, I really want to provide a service that's helping more and more people. So I do hope that the class is helping you. And if not, just keep searching. That's what I did when I first got into yoga, is I took some classes that were really not that great, and I'm glad that I just kept going with it because I kept hearing how beneficial it was. But the classes I took were really just awful. So I just kept searching and trying to find a better, healthier environment for myself, and I found it. And then I just studied many different ways because I was interested in having more diversity in terms of helping people or assisting them with their practice. All right, so I have a class tomorrow morning, and that's at 9:30 Eastern Time. And you register for that class on my website, jonwittyoga.com. And you can see more about me and my information. And if you'd like to give me a donation, the information's on my website. All right, take care. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Easter.